Thank you, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dan-A-Plooza. The following podcast is scheduled for one fall and has a 30-minute time limit. In the corner across from me, she is known as the Vapor Vixen and known as the Last Unicorn. A virtual round of applause for Juniper Gates.
Thank you for having me aboard this evening.
For those watching and future watching, to see Juniper in wrestling action, check out The Purge tomorrow. That would be on Friday, October 20th in Dayton, Ohio. And if you're also in the Bourbon area tomorrow, or no, that's actually Saturday, that will be at the Pro Wrestling King. So make sure to check out that and support great wrestling action. And that is our plug segment. So I'm curious because this is just a question that I thought of your ring name. So the Last Unicorn, does that have anything to do with the movie The Last Unicorn, or is that just coincidence?
That was originally just coincidence, but I did come from like that generation, so
Yeah.
I felt silly when people first asked me if there was a correlation. Unicorns are like an encompassing theme since I've started wrestling. I even have a unicorn tattoo on my right thigh.
Oh, okay.
I give my big boot and my haluva kick. I call them
Oh,
my unicorn kick.
there
Um,
you go.
Nobody's ever kicked out of it, and I plan on keeping it that way.
Did you now were you doing the haluva kick before Sami Zayn, or is that something like later on?
I will say I got inspiration from Sami Zayn. Being 5'11" myself, I can kick pretty high, and some people suggested I give it a try, and I did, and it looked really good. So I figured, why not keep it?
Exactly. That's the thing. You got to have a good finisher and and make sure to keep the crowd engaged. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've seen some finishers and like it's just now. Do you believe in the philosophy that the finisher should finish the match, or do you believe that sometimes it can keep on going?
I believe that overall, I don't think people protect their finishing moves nearly enough. Like, I feel like there are situations where that could be an exception where someone may kick out, but I think by and large, people don't do themselves justices by making their core move, just this unstoppable force.
And I think that that's a good way for it to be for the match. Because sometimes I've seen five finishing moves, and then it. I feel like it kind of takes you out of it. Do you feel that way sometimes when it's just finishing move after finishing move? Maybe not on the indie scene, but on television.
I will say even a bit on the indie scene, like that was the one thing that always kind of bothered me about the Young Bucks. You had people like Steven Richards and Shawn Michaels just really
Yeah.
use super kick as a finish, and they'll just be kicking back and forth like they're chopping each other, and all it really does is make you think, wow, these people can't really kick for shit, can they?
um, I gotta tell you, one time I saw Jake the Snake Roberts wrestle a couple years ago, and he did the DDT. He did the double DDT, and
Nice.
it didn't look like it looked like some of it connected, but some of it didn't. Um, have you ever run into that where like sometimes the move doesn't really fully connect, and what do you do like in that situation?
If I'm the one receiving the move, I'm not gonna sell it like I got absolutely blasted. If it didn't
Yeah.
fully connect, I don't want to make myself look weak, and I don't want my opponent to look bad. So I'll kind of continue par for the course. Like I've had a few moves where they absolutely just whiffed it, and I sold it accordingly. You didn't hit me, so I have nothing to get hurt by. Conversely, I tend to try and take my time and be intentional with the moves I do, so I try to maximize them. But there are times where if I don't quite connect like I do, like I'd like to, and my opponent sells, I'll kind of regroup with them. Hey, you didn't need to sell as hard as you did on that. You really made me look like a beast. And just going from there.
So, did you always want to be a wrestler growing up, or did that come later on in life?
Honestly, most of my life, yeah. Growing up as a '90s kid, my cousins and I watched through the Monday Night Wars. Through commercial breaks, we'd switch between WWF and WCW. And as we all grew up, they kind of got into their own things. I'd gotten into martial arts for a bit, but there was always that bug in my ear. And just a few years back, I figured I was getting to that age. The phrase "shit or get off the pot" kind of came to mind. So I figured it's a childhood dream. It's been in the back of my head most of my life. I better jump in and do it before there's no do it left.
Exactly. I was also a '90s kid. I was a WCW and WWF. Some of my favorites were obviously The Undertaker. I have a strong connection to the Phenom, and The Rock. That's another favorite. Um, and then Stone Cold, and
Oh,
then,
who do you like Stone Cold?
exactly. uh, Diamond Dallas Page from WCW. I'm thinking Sting, and then I'm thinking also probably Goldberg. Did you watch Ready to Rumble? Do you remember that movie?
Gosh, that was such a campy movie, but that's what made it what it was.
Yeah.
That actually
Uh,
reminds me, have you seen the documentary You Can't Kill David Arquette?
yes. Yes.
That was honestly a lot of insight and respect for the guy to just kind of go back and like learn it and work the indies the right way.
Right. Um, I feel like someone who doesn't give enough credit, and he was in Ready to Rumble, and he was in WCW, is Chris Canyon.
Oh,
That was another one of my favorite wrestlers. So innovative, ahead of his time. And I watched the Dark Side of the Ring episode, and I thought it was great. Um, I always think it was a shame that the Mortis character ended so early. Um, do you have certain favorite moves that you like to use from wrestlers of the past?
I do have a handful of them. Being taller, I'm always a fan of hitting a sidewalk slam. A lot of skates are significantly smaller, so quite the
Yeah.
spectacle. I also occasionally hit the Golden Globes. I'm a big fan of Gold Dust at times, and
Ah,
guys that are significantly bigger. The fans don't seem to mind that I'll kind of break out an equalizer like that. And I would say another one would be the falling reverse DDT. I was always a fan of Christian, and he did it so smoothly, so I just kind of adapted that into my move set as well.
um, oh man, so many funny Goldust stuff. I was actually watching something on Goldust the other day. Do you remember when he uh, did the whole electrocution thing, that angle and everything? And
My gosh, do I ever?
yeah. And he was like WrestleMania, and it's just the whole promo with him and Triple H.
I love that it was so hilarious that even like Triple H broke character a little bit to laugh.
Yeah. And I always thought, and then he went on Howard Stern and did that. Like, he sold it for a long time, that gimmick, and so but I also just remember him being controversial in his push ending, and I thought that was a shame too, because they didn't like what he was doing at the time. It
Yeah,
was '90s.
sometimes you gotta appease the gods of wrestling, and they aren't always happy when you try
Oh
something.
yeah. um, have you had your dream opponent yet?
Um, I'm not really sure who I would say is a dream opponent. For me, I know it would be unlikely, but someday I'd love to wrestle Mickey James. I've
Oh,
always heard he's got in the WWE is like, the crazed fan of
yeah.
this, and
Um,
she's an outspoken ally in the community. So, just all around, I think that would be a fun match.
yeah. Oh my. That's one of my favorite wrestlers is Mickey James.
Same.
I
And
don't
you
know.
kind of going back to mentioning DDP. I'm a big fan of his, and honestly, he kind of he's. I have aspirations similar to his. Like I'm not as young as a lot of my peers, but I
Mhm.
kind of I try to push and learn and grow as best and as fast as I can. Because I know even if the clock isn't necessarily, in my favor, that there's still plenty of time and plenty of opportunity to be had.
Yeah. Paige is great. I do his DDP yoga. I don't know if you do that, but
I've thought about getting into it. I've heard really good things about it.
my legs used to be blown up. Like they used to hurt going up the stairs. They were like
Oh,
sore. So I've done the flexibility and now they're more relaxed. I've actually lost almost 55 to 60 pounds. So
oh, geez, that's a big testament to DDP yoga.
it is. It's hard because my kitty cat likes to jump on my back as I'm doing downward dog. So I call it downward cat. So that way she thinks we're talking about cats and she doesn't like mess it up,
Fair.
So that's the thing with that. But Mickey James, I just really enjoy her. I've seen her wrestle live 3 times. Have you gotten that interaction with her or no?
I have not, unfortunately. I'd love to see her live, but definitely I've seen a number of her matches. Yeah, I since I've gotten involved in like the indies, I find it that it's a little bit harder to go to live events for like the bigger shows. Because even like when they're in my hometown or the town I'm residing in, I'm usually booked, so I'll be states away from where I'd need to be to see the event. And as much as I love being a fan of wrestling, still, there's just nothing beats actually being able to entertain.
Is very true, and it's harder now because like everything's so stream and everything, So I feel like it's harder to get people to come to shows because a lot of people are like, well, I can just watch it from home, and like, um, do you find that people are still attending the indies like even after COVID?
I would say so. You are right in that regard that there's so many wrestling streaming services and people putting things on YouTube. I find that promoters and wrestlers could do better to not like give everything away. Like we're taught not to do that in matches. So I find that when people do that and they'll have whole shows on like YouTube, like maybe not have the main event or cut out the finishes, give people a reason to show up and be there. I just think it's something that hopefully the community will learn to adapt to because I think they're still finding their sea legs, so to speak.
Yeah, it's definitely important. Like, I watched the pay-per-view WWE Fastlane. I don't know. Do you still watch wrestling on TV, or are you?
On and off up until like the last month, I was keeping up pretty well with WWE. I find that their product isn't doing half bad overall.
Yeah, there's only 5 matches on the pay-per-view. We're
Oh wow.
used to 9 to 10 matches, and there's only 5. But um, I have to say that I believe that one of my favorites and most over is Seth freaking Rollins.
Fair. I will say that I'd liked the matches that Seth has had against Shinsuke as of recent.
Yeah.
Those are always bangers.
Yeah, he definitely puts in the effort and the work, and I feel like he's a future Hall of Famer. It's just a matter of time.
Oh, absolutely. He's grown so much since his, days in the Shield. which I can't
Oh,
believe were
yeah.
like about a decade ago.
Did you watch when they had other members of the Shield? Like they had Kurt Angle and Triple H because Roman was out sick.
I remember them doing that vaguely because I was on off watching at that point. Kind of felt like it got a bit too busy when they tried doing that, but I got what they were going for.
Yeah, I felt like it was a bit much, but I understand they want to keep the dynamic and everything, but it's hard when the main muscle piece is missing.
Absolutely.
But have you experienced any injuries so far?
Nothing too major. When I first started wrestling, I ended up bruising a couple of ribs. I thought I had fully healed them, but I took an exploder suplex and immediately felt them again, so I knew to take it easy. And then earlier this year, I upset my rotator cuff. It wasn't like injured, but like the next few days, even just going about my daily life, I had to keep it KT taped, so I was kind of concerned for a bit. And then just because I tend to lift people like significantly larger than myself, sometimes my knees just kind of don't like me, but that tends to kind of ebb and wane based on the weather. I don't foresee it being an issue, but you just never know. So I'm always trying to adapt my move set because I don't want something that maybe isn't injured, but also needs to be like babied a little to keep me from doing what I do.
So when you pick up somebody bigger, are you talking like 6 foot, 7 foot, or how much bigger than you?
It really depends. For like my back suplexes and my bridging northern lights, I can usually consistently lift people about 250, 260. At my best, I was able to back suplex my trainer Anthony Lee, and he was about 295. Um, Same with like Samoan drops. I can usually get people about 220, 225 on my shoulders pretty easily. And it's nice to do those, what I call strong girl shit, but definitely you feel it too.
Oh, yeah. Man, I'm like even more fan now because I love when someone can do a good Samoan drop. So,
I think the last one I did, I want to say it was to Haley Shadows here in
okay, I
a
know.
promotion in Indianapolis.
Yes,
Or
I
outside.
know who that is. Um, I always think of the Samoan drop. I think of he's not here anymore. Is Umaga? I don't know if you remember that wrestler.
Gosh, do I ever. He's
Yes,
also proof that, like, if you really commit to it, just about anything can be a finishing move. Like a taped up thumb.
I
He just
know.
had that belief behind it, like it murdered people.
Yeah, and then Regal would always say his name differently. I don't know if you remember that. He would call him Umanja or Umaga or
Oh, yeah.
That is another one of my favorite wrestlers is William Regal. Uh, he I don't know if you remember there was a whole promo when it was with him and Eugene and he was angry at Triple H and he talked about having vile venom in his body and everything and like I really believed he was really angry and he wanted to fight Triple H.
I
Uh,
do remember that because it was one of those rare
yes.
times where Regal was just kind of really a face in this, standing up for
Oh
Eugene.
yeah.
Being a viewer at the time, I didn't really expect that.
And he's like, I'll give you the bloody thrashing you need. I always liked how he called people sunshine too.
Oh,
Uh, but
his mannerisms is really added to the character because it was such
yeah.
a British gentleman and like this mean fella who's always got like the brass knucks at his side.
Oh yeah, there was a story. He used to be afraid of taking the brass knucks on the airline because they were going to look through the bag. He's like, it's for wrestling. I have to knock out my opponent.
I know some people who have monster gimmicks, and their biggest
Oh,
fear is being pulled over by a cop. So they'll usually have like a wrestling video at the
oh
ready.
yeah, yeah,
Why got chain and barbed wire in there?
yeah. Um, There was I don't know if you remember Yoshi Tajiri who tag teamed with him.
Yes.
So Tajiri, he used to ride with Regal, and then he didn't want music played, so they used to just drive in silence
Oh
because
my goodness.
Regal didn't want to. He's like he didn't like the noise, and there's a whole story time feature of how Tajiri had certain things and Regal could not do them because Tajiri would get animated or antsy.
Though mentioning Tajiri, I occasionally do a buzzsaw kick. I always love that fit.
Ah.
It comes. It just seems as effective.
Yeah, you don't do the mist, do you? No, no spray, right?
People have tried to convince me to do it. I just think that might be a little bit too mean for my move set, but I respect him for being able to do that.
Yes. You do the tarantula?
I wanted to learn how to do that. I've been really
Yeah.
slowly integrating more submissions
Yeah.
into my repertoire, so I think that could be fun, especially for like a no DQ match.
Exactly. That's what you need. I love the tarantula. Um, Another one I like is the shining wizard.
Oh
That's a
yeah,
great one. And the inzaguri. That's a great one too.
a really well done enziguri just looks mean.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it does. um, Now, have you ever been like, um, I know sometimes they do like chops and everything, you know, have you ever been really lit up with the chops?
Oh yes. A lot of the people that know me, they know that I like to be treated like any other worker, and
Yeah.
sometimes it means getting the shit chopped out of me.
Oh.
For minor reasons, so it's not like anyone takes liberties. But if they're
Yeah.
gonna chop me, they'll chop me like any other worker. They'll just avoid the breasts a bit. But I've definitely had some handprints leaving a few.
Ooh. So is it like the next day, like, you're still feeling it, aren't you? You know, and
Oh yeah, it won't be as like hot where I got chopped, but you'll definitely still feel it. It'll be tender for a couple days.
yeah. Now, is there any match you won't do? Is there like a match where you're like, I'm not doing this?
Um, I'm not really personally a fan of doing death matches. A lot of the people who brought me into the business are death match wrestlers, so I have the
Mhm.
utmost respect for them. But I having done a few hardcore matches, those were rough enough. I couldn't really imagine bringing like barbed wire and glass into the mix. The only other match I could really see having apprehensions against would be like a ladder match, and it's not the height issue.
Mhm.
It's the fact that at least in the indie scene, ring quality can vary dramatically from show to show. So I'd want to know that like the ring I'd be wrestling in would be able to sustain a ladder staying vertical before I'd really consider that.
Yeah, because that's extremely important. I know one time I broke something during a match. One time I threw something in the ring, and they were doing a hardcore, and they had the glass uh, set like as the table,
Mhm.
and they told me to throw, and I threw the chair, and it hit the glass
Oh no.
and broke, and people went, "You screwed up," and I go, "I know, I don't know my own strength," and so it was broken, and so I think he just found another glass thing and hit him with a pile driver on the table or something, you know. But I learned to never throw anything again, even if people are asking. I'm like, "Are you sure?" I don't know if I throw it and break it. So that's the thing, you know, you never want to interrupt the finish. Is there anything you want to say or promote as we wrap it up on Dan-A-Plooza today?
Um, Really just those two shows coming up. I'm always booked in the Midwest. I've been everywhere from as far west as Nebraska and as far east as New Jersey. So just keep an eye out for when you'll see the Unicorn Stampede, and follow me on really almost any social media platform. If you look up Juniper Gates or the Vaporwave Vixen, I'm sure you'll find me. I'll either be wearing the Zero Suit Samus here or my Rainbow Bright gear, and definitely my unicorn hoodie. So
All right. Well, that wraps it up for another episode of Dan-A-Plooza. Everyone stay tuned. Singer-songwriter Destiny Beard will be joining us. Everyone take care